My name is Charlie L. Morales. I grew up in a Salvadoran immigrant family. I have 7 sisters, 5 brothers, and 20 nephews and nieces. Same mom, same dad. And so growing up in San Francisco um, during the 80s, my parents, they immigrated here from El Salvador. And so it was pretty wild growing up because we were very limited on space, and it was a lot of siblings. So there was never really much privacy. So we were always out and about, usually in the streets of the park, or just trying to always having fun. I recall from my childhood, and just enjoying the culture and life in San Francisco. So as a first generation college graduate, it felt like I was navigating the education system kind of on my own. My siblings would help here and there, but because my parents were 2 immigrants that came here from El Salvador, and 5 of my siblings grew up or were raised there, it's trial and error. So they just said, go to school. My mom grew up really religious, old school, traditional Catholic. So everything was like, if you're good with God, you're good with me. And my dad, because he had 13 children, he was always working. And so it wasn't as important, but they did emphasize, get an education. But because they were immigrants, they didn't really know what that meant and couldn't help me academically. So some of my siblings did help me, and some of my siblings did get into like UC Berkeley, or went to college. On the women's side, they tended to go to college more and did better. For the guy side, there's like double standards in Latino culture, at least for my family, and so they didn't necessarily went to college. Some of them dropped out, and some of them went a different path. And so for me, I knew that I wanted to go to higher education in the 9th grade, when my teacher took me on a field trip to UC Berkeley, and we did like a moot court for our final on the campus, and I fell in love with the college culture and atmosphere. I got exposed to UC Berkeley at 9th grade because I went to the campus. I didn't know anything about college then, and then later on, I found out I needed to do something called the A through G requirements in order to qualify to apply. So when I made it to my senior year, I was having some difficulties because I was unmotivated by my senior year, and I was navigating through life. I had to deal with a lot of challenges, such as my friends getting into gangs, getting locked up, getting into trouble, and trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. But I knew that I started to get into some trouble, and so that kind of made me realize, like, I kind of was losing hope at that point. But my high school counselor, it was the college designated counselor through a community organization that helped me with the application process, and we really really struggled through it because I didn't have a computer at home. I didn't have access to technology like that back in 2006, and so I had to go after school and go to the computer lab at school. And so it was a long process. And even then, I didn't really even know UC San Diego was a college that I was anticipating to go to. And so learning how to fill out the FAFSA, all the fundamentals in the application process was a long, rigorous process that I had to rely a lot on. My college counselor, her name was Maria Martinez, which she actually is my neighbor currently, later, way down the future. And so it was, she helped me out a lot. And so she still remembers me to this day because I kept going to her for support, because I knew that I didn't know the process. So I had to rely on her a lot to guide me through that process. It was a long, rigorous process. It took a lot of drafts, a lot of support. And so I didn't really know too many people in the college atmosphere that understood that process to help me. So, I stuck to her a lot, and she helped me tremendously. Yeah. Well, you got to understand that growing up in San Francisco, they're in the most violent and impoverished neighborhoods, under-resourced historically under-resourced neighborhoods, where I was exposed to a lot of violence, gang violence, drug abuse, substance abuse, a bunch of negative things that kind of took an impact on me. But I was seeing San Francisco through a small bubble. And so I knew that I needed to get outside of this bubble to succeed. And so once I got into UC San Diego, I applied my 12th grade year in high school. I got in. By April, I declared that I was going to attend UC San Diego, but I had no idea where it was at. They didn't even have Google. I had MapQuest, something called MapQuest. And I asked the counselor, say, "Hey, Maria, where is UC San Diego? I've never heard of it." They're like, "It's on the border by Mexico." I was like, "Okay." I was like, 500 miles? I've never been outside of San Francisco. And so it was a culture shock when you go outside of your bubble and talk to people that come from different parts of the world and even different parts of California. And so back then, I used to wear a gold grill. I used to wear a SF Giants cap. I used to wear a tall tee, which is a white tee that goes all the way to your knees. So I wore really baggy clothes back then. And so people didn't associate myself as a UC San Diego college student once I got there, because I looked and dressed different from everybody else. But in a diverse setting, you got to understand people come from all walks of life. And so what I had to, my lived experience, I can offer a lot to those different spaces. And so before I even got to UC San Diego, though, my senior year in high school, I failed my AP calculus class. And so because I failed my AP calculus class, it's conditional. And because it was conditional, they said, "Okay, you failed your AP calculus class and you didn't get over a 3.0. So we revoke your admittance. You can't get in." So what I had to do, the hurdles I had to overcome to get there, was I had to reconnect or contact my professor, my math calculus, AP calculus professor. I had to ask him to retake a final. I had to study that whole summer, retook a final, changed my grade, and then I had to mail my new transcript to UC San Diego. I had to put a stamp in it and go to the mailbox and send it. And then I wrote that letter of appeal. Luckily, my sister that got into UC Berkeley, she got in on an appeal. So she was like, "Never take no for an answer." And so I learned from her. And so I appealed. And then by August, I had already enrolled in a community college at City College San Francisco, because they start in August. Quarter system, UC San Diego, starts in September. And so I went to class for a few weeks, and they called. I didn't even have a cell phone back then. They called the house line and they say, "Hey, can I speak to Carlos Morales?" I was like, my mom passed me the phone. She was like, "I'm just calling you from the missions to inform you that you got reinstated to the university. Can you make it to orientation tomorrow?" I said, "Thank you, Lord." He said, "Yes, I could make it." And so I hung up the phone. I was like, how the hell am I going to make it 500 miles away to a place I've never been? I printed out on MapQuest the directions, and I had to ask my brother very persistently to drive me down there. And so that's what he did. But because at that time, I pretty much got kicked out the house during my senior year, and I lived with one of my sisters. And so I put everything that I owned in 3 garbage bags, because I didn't have a luggage bag or anything. And my brother picked me up and drove me all the way to orientation the next day. And so this was about September, about 0 week, right before school started, the last orientation. And so I made it down there. I was actually homeless for a week, but I found one person that I went to college with. To high school with. So the one person that I went to high school with, Katie Brett, somehow I got a hold of her, and she let me crash on her couch at Revel. And she let me crash on her couch for a week until I found housing on campus. And so that was my first, that's how I started my college career, from getting accepted to going to UC San Diego. Yeah, so when I went there, I didn't know anybody except for my friend Katie. And so they had different events around campus during 0 week. So the week leading up to the school, to start. And so I went to the different events and I kind of just introduced myself to different people. And then somebody, they connected me, I forgot who, to Oasis. So for tutoring essentially. And so I got part of that program. I got into that summer bridge program the summer before, but because I got my admissions got revoked, I couldn't no longer go to the summer bridge program, which is crucial for a lot of students of color or just first year students in general, because that's the most vulnerable time somebody can has a high probability of dropping out. And so I didn't get to I missed that. So people already knew each other, but I got into another program, which helped me out there. And then I just kind of met people, and I met one girl that was from San Francisco somehow, and she introduced me to some other guys, part of a Latino-based fraternity called Nu Alpha Kappa Fraternity. And so I met these guys, and they invited me to a few different events, and they kind of showed me the ropes. And I'm just like, wow, I've never met anybody that really showed me love off the bat. And I was just like kind of thrown off by that. I was like, man, I'm gonna check out this organization. So I ended up joining a Latino-based fraternity my first year. And then I met a few different people from the Black Student Union. I joined the Black Student Union. So I felt most at home there with the Black Student Union, and so connected with a bunch of people from the Bay Area as well. And so from there, I just kind of explored and tried different organizations and different opportunities that the college had to offer. That I eventually majored in ethnic studies and met one of my best or the most profound mentor at that school. And he's actually the provost of Muir College now. His name is Professor Wayne Yang. And so he's the provost there currently. And so back then, he was just an ethnic studies professor. And so I was able to really navigate the space by trying and exploring and having an open mind. And so through actively doing that, I was able to eventually succeed and graduate from UC San Diego. So I didn't meet Wayne. So I started in fall 2006. I didn't meet him till about 2009. At my second year of college, so I struggled really a lot. I was on academic probation, I think 3 or 4 times at UC San Diego. So my first year, academic probation, academic disqualification, and then I got better, but I still needed to improve. So I was still on probation, and so I utilized all the resources on campus. I went to all the tutoring, math and English. I went to office hours. I studied at the library. I had to learn the fundamentals. Then I was still struggling. And then later down the line, my second year, I had a hard time adjusting culturally because, it's a culture shock being at UC San Diego. And so I decided to take a leave of absence, and I went back to the community college my third year. My second half of my second year. And so I took a semester off. I went to the community college back home. And then during that summer, 2 of my brothers got shot. Somebody attempted to rob them, a house robbery, and they got shot. And then 2 weeks later, I got in a motorcycle accident. And so I fractured my left ankle, and I needed to get surgery. And so by that time, I was really bitter and angry in my life. And so that is when I met Wayne Yang. Somebody said, hey, take this person's class, meet this guy. This is who you want to meet. So I go to the ethnic studies building. I knock on the door of the counselor. Her name is Yolanda Escamilla, which was another good mentor of mine at that time that I did not know. And so I first met her, and she sat down and talked to me for about an hour about ethnic studies. I had no idea what ethnic studies was at that time. And so I was like, this lady is really nice, but I was like, no, I'm going to do international studies. I want to do business. I was kind of naive and hard-headed back then. I was like, I'm going to try to do things my way. If it doesn't work out, I'll consider ethnic studies. And so she introduced me to Wayne Yang. At that time, I had a meeting with him. I know he was a shorter Asian bald guy. He had, and he wore really, really nice fedora hats, and he would walk around with his backpack. So he was really nice. had a nice, calm, soothing, comforting voice. And so at that time, I was really angry, and I was just like, you know what? I hate this institution. At that time, I was like, man, things aren't going great. My brothers got shot. It was really, really bad at that time. I was at really rock bottom of my life at that time. And so he just kept checking in on me and just kind of invited me to different opportunities or events that were happening. And so he showed me love. And so because of that, our relationship grew into he would look after me. And I eventually, with the help of Yolanda and Wayne Yang, I transitioned to ethnic studies and kind of started to grow, personally develop. And so I was able to transition into ethnic studies and really understand the power of ethnic studies and how it can heal not just my life, but as grow into a profession or integrate it into my profession, whatever career I chose to pursue. But I did not become what I am now, and which is a college counselor, until maybe 6-8 years later, after he kept planting the seed, like, hey, you should consider working with the youth. You should consider, you might be a really good community college counselor or college counselor. Like you should. And I told him for many, many years, nope. And then later down the line, when I finally okay, I'm ready for a change. I'm gonna take you up on the offer again. So he helped me apply to grad school, and I got into USC, University of Southern California. And then I got to that program. I did that program for 2 years, got my master's degree, and now I ended up coming back home in the Bay Area. So now I currently work at 3 community colleges as the athletic counselor for Merritt College, the Promise counselor at Skyline College, and EOPS counselor at Chabot College. And so I wouldn't have went on that journey had it not been for the intervention of people that cared and showed me profound love in a persistent manner, and they were really patient with me. When I went to USC, I spent 2 years there. I worked at the Center for Engineering Diversity at USC, and I also gained an internship at UCLA in the athletics department. And so I was able to get exposed to that, but I met another mentor that worked at the community colleges, and he was a vice president at the community colleges. And so he let me shadow him for the day. And I really, really like the dynamics, and I like the challenge of being at a community college, because it's like they're like the underdogs, people that are at the community college. And when you look at it at an equity lens or standpoint, I rather work with the people or the students that are that have the least, are usually the last, and are oftentimes lost. Because I got to see the world from a global perspective, I knew that I felt compelled to come back to my community and show them what is possible. And so my energy comes from the people. Just when you drive a car, gasoline, you got to put gasoline in there. Instead, what fuels you? Instead, for me, what fuels me is the people, my youth, people that I grew up around. And so being in the Bay Area means that much more to me, because I know that I want to see my people win. And so if I'm able to do that and expose that using my privilege and power as a college counselor / faculty member, now it comes full circle, because so many times I meet a student and I know their uncles, I know their parents, I know they know my siblings. So that community is a big factor for me. So that's what motivates me, and that's why. Since I mainly work with students at the community college level, I let my students know that the formal education, it's not it's not the end of the world. The education grades, they don't reflect your potential or your talent. They only reflect your performance. And if you've been historically underrepresented or under resourced or have all these the systemic racism and challenges that are intentionally there, then you're then it's not the end of the world. I want them to know that we love and care about them, and so we're going to guide them to the same journey, and everybody's journey is different. And so for me, I want all my students to know before they come see me, through their whole K through 12 experience, that they are loved, they're respected, and we care about them. So that they can succeed at the higher education level if they wanted to. So because I grew up in San Francisco, I am oftentimes in the community through different organizations. So some of the organizations that are or things that I care about, we feed the homeless once a month through an organization called The City Eats. I am a board member for a summer program called Horizons at the Friends School. And so to bridge the learning gap before K through 12 students. And then I also do cultural events through Carnaval San Francisco. And so we just had an event for Dia de los Muertos, so culturally relevant events. And so what I try to do is understand what are families, what are people experiencing in current times, and hearing their voices, and then creating programs to kind of bridge the gap, so that when then I see them on the academic setting, I'm able to holistically understand where the person is coming from, so that I could better guide them. And as whether guiding them with the basic needs is huge in the community. And so when we're able to give them the fundamental basic needs that they need, food, safety, shelter, then that we're able to help students and families thrive, so that they can become self-aware and self-actualize and kind of reach their tap into their potential to get where they want to be. But everybody is on a different path and a different journey, and at a different point in their lives. And so I try to show love to my community through being physically present, through strategically allocating resources that they need, and to help them survive. So depending on who I'm speaking to will depend on what I recommend or allocate or kind of propose to them. But I try to do it in a fun manner, where it doesn't have to be in a way that I'm able to incorporate other communities or other stakeholders in the community, such as low riding is big here in San Francisco. So we have people bring out their old school cars and then have a show or display their art, or we'll have a backpack giveaway before the school starts, and we'll have people bring out the jumpers. Barbers will volunteer their time to give free haircuts to the youth. Or hairstylists for the young girls and stuff. And so these are all different ways that we try to invest in our own community, so that these students can thrive and then go out into the world, and then eventually come back and give back to create a sustainable ecosystem to where we're advancing as a community and society. So I want to encourage all of y'all to be your authentic selves as you go through your journey, because oftentimes you think you have to act a certain way, and it kind of strips from your identity, when the opposite should be happening, where you should contribute your authentic selves in all of your intersectional identities, so that we can exchange ideas and kind of, enjoy this journey that we're going on. And so that's what connects us at the human level. I'm going to continue building my career in the counseling field, specifically the community colleges, because I think I like the challenge being at the community colleges and helping students that fall through the cracks bridge those gaps, so that they're able to have the bridge that they can walk on. and get to where they need to go instead of falling through the cracks and going through trials and errors to kind of figure it out and then not eventually hitting their goals. And so for me, I'm going to continue in the counseling field. I eventually want to be a dean of counseling and possibly vice president of a college in California, ideally. And then we'll see what else has in store for me. I'm already happy with the success that I've been having and just being able to change other students' future and kind of propel them and catapult them to where they want to go. I think that is that's fulfilling for me and purposeful. And so because I'm driven by passion and purpose, anything's possible.